Welcome back, everyone, to the Paige Kornblue Show. You know, here I tell the stories and feature the people and places that enlighten, entertain, and empower us. They light us up, make a difference, put that pep in our step, or help us get there if we are far from it. On this episode, we've got someone who will certainly help with all of that. Coach Chad Lunsford, who is on his way to coach at Auburn University, on his way back to Auburn, really second time around. Congratulations. Today it's official.
Yeah, thank you. It was a blessing. It's probably been 2 weeks since I started interviewing for the job, and had a great experience with Coach Freeze, and he was very diligent and took his time with it. And, he felt like I was a really good fit. And, I've been at Auburn before, and I know the place, and I know that my family fits in that community. So I think it's going to be a really good move for us.
You've been interim head coach at Florida Atlantic University here in Boca Raton. We know you well. Several years here. Prior to that, head coach at Georgia Southern. That was also a second time around to be there at that program. Georgia Military College. So many years and many roles, many hats that you've worn, and now back to being a Tiger.
Yeah, when you say many hats, I mean, that's something that I really pride myself on in my career. I probably didn't get here the traditional route, and I started at Georgia Military College, and my first job was to cut the grass, paint the field, wash the equipment, do all the laundry, whatever I had to do, just to be a coach. And got to know a lot of people, and so many people ended up helping me and moving me along in my career. And so very fortunate to be where I am today.
There's a lot of connections here, not just obviously in town with the Boca Raton Bowl, with FAU and Kornblue kicking, my brother, know well. But I have to say, what attracted me to you, Chad, was the moment at Ladies' Night at FAU. And that was the first time I kind of saw you one-on-one in action. It was with a room of ladies. I'd say, I don't know, we had close to 100.
There was a lot.
There were a lot of ladies in there. And this was
intimidating.
Well, you rocked it. And I just felt, I know all of us did, we just loved your energy, your enthusiasm. And I was like, everyone needs to know this guy. And obviously take from you what so many of your players and fellow coaches probably do on a daily basis.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. If you ask my wife, she'd say I'm the most boring person in the world, and I'm an introvert, and don't. But there's a passion. There's a passion not only for football, but there's a passion to be able to connect with people because of the sport. And anytime that we get to, I love it when it's an audience that maybe for the first time is hearing something, and you can really add to it. So I love Ladies' Night, because if it's maybe someone that's new to the program or new to the game, you can give them something that when they go to the game, they're going to go, oh man, he talked about that. I remember that. And so I enjoy things like that. And, luckily that night y'all didn't boo me off the stage, and we had a good time.
No, we wanted more. It was great. I mean, you had us chanting and cheering and understanding, right? There's many in there who don't understand all the, inner workings of the game. But you guys brought us from inside to outside. I hope all programs continue a ladies' night type of thing. I was a big fan. And I understand, football, right? So, but many don't. So thanks for breaking it down so well for many who it's new to. I guess on that note, how do you explain your job? Right now you're special teams coordinator, right?
Yeah. So what I really like about it is you really touch everybody on the whole team. It doesn't matter what position, from kickers to punters to snappers, but also your offense and defensive positions. And I love special teams because, obviously offense, defense, that gets a lot of the notoriety. And special teams maybe doesn't jump out there unless there's a mistake. But I love it because it gets the whole team connected. Because how special teams plays affects the offense, affects the defense. And, and I think it's just a great part of the game that really brings the team together. And it's never, it's not just offense versus defense. It's a team thing. And you use all sides of the ball, far as positions go. And, your coaches who maybe coach offense and defense, they're required to coach on special teams as well. And that allows them to connect with other guys on the team as well. But, being a head coach before, there's something about being able to touch everybody on the team, just being able to have that impact. And so I feel like special teams is that role. If you're not going to be the head coach, I mean, that's a role where you can interact with everybody on the team and get a relationship with them. So that's why I really enjoy it.
I went back to my videos from that ladies' night, and I rolled at one point, and you said, special teams has one shot. You have to make sure that fire is lit in our bellies.
That's right.
Right? So it's that one shot.
Yep.
And I loved that how you explained it.
And, and that's what we try to tell the guys. Like, when you're on special teams, you're going to get sent out there and you're going to get one play. Whereas offense, defense, it depends on what goes on in that drive. But on special teams, you're going to get that one play. And we call it one shot. And we have to be so dialed in. We have to be so locked in on that particular play. And I think once you get the guys figuring out, man, this is a total team game and how important special teams is to it. And then especially in college, guys, when they play special teams, they understand too, this may be an opportunity to maybe go play professional football as well, because they can demonstrate. There's a lot of field that gets covered during a special teams play. That's the biggest change in field position, unless there's a big play on offense or defense. And so you show a lot of athleticism. You can show a lot of grit, determination, and things like that. And, that's why we want to get them going. We want to get them excited, and we want that fire to burn.
How do you get in the mindset of your players, on special teams especially, right? There can be moments of just, complete frustration and complete excitement as the coach who kind of leads that pack.
I just think you got to really talk to them about it. This is the way I kind of break it down, and I did this as a head coach, and I do this as a special teams coach too as well. But in a 60-minute football game, and my numbers are going to be off, but this is a study we did at one point, and there's about 11 minutes of actual action in a 60-minute game. And then if you start breaking that into offense, defense, and special teams, at the college level, with most guys that don't play offense and defense, they may be playing 6 minutes a game. Now you start talking about your backup gets in for a little bit. So those opportunities to play are really very minimal. But where guys have to be really, really strong and mentally strong is, what are you doing with all that other time? And so, I just think it's one of those things where if you can teach them, like when we're in those long meetings or we're in those long practices and we're in those, like, you are training for all of that. You're training for that dead time. You're training for that, right before a play is about to happen, how you're going to lock in, how you're going to focus. And then during that 4 to 6 second play, how are you just going to turn loose and be confident and not worry of, am I prepared? And I think that's the biggest way to connect with them, is just try to get them to understand, like, for you to succeed at this game, you got to make sure that you're taking care of all those little moments.
How would you overall explain your coaching philosophy?
I'm a positive guy. I don't like to stay in the negative long. There's going to be some times where you obviously got to hold people accountable, and you're going to do that. But, I want to celebrate the good times as much as I want to hold people accountable in the negative times. So I want people to enjoy, my coaching style. And I've had a lot of luck with it. There's some times that, you have some players that maybe only respond to the negative, and then you got some that really respond to the positive. And I think as a coach, you got to be able to understand each player individually and what pushes their buttons. But overall, I'm going to be a positive guy.
What are you most excited about this next step?
Man, it's, a lot of people say SEC, Power 4 football, and and I am excited about that. And, obviously being at Auburn before, I got to experience it. I was on the national championship team in 2010, and that was unbelievable. But I think the biggest thing is, because I'd been there before, is the sense of community there, the sense of family. Auburn, they pride themselves on saying we're the Auburn family, and there's just a unbelievable feel in that town. And obviously there's a lot of pride for the college, the university, and all that type of stuff. But just the people there, it's one of the best places I've ever lived. And so I'm really excited about getting my family there, because when we moved from Auburn, my kids were very young, so they don't remember hardly any of it. My wife obviously does, and I do, but I want my kids to be able to experience it too, and I'm really excited about that.
In terms of the journey, right there, I don't think people realize that the path for college coaches is intense, right?
Sure.
How has that been for you with so much good, so many great programs, and obviously a testament to you've come back, right? You've come back home a couple times at different locations.
There is a lot of ups and downs in this, and it's hard to be a coach. I mean, the coaching profession is so tough. Being a head coach at one time, you understood you get a lot of credit for things that you probably shouldn't get credit for, and then you get a lot of blame for a lot of things that you shouldn't get blamed for, but that's part of it. And then as an assistant coach, especially after being a head coach, I think I've become a better assistant coach, because, I really now concentrate on like just being really good at where I'm at the moment, where my feet are. I know that's kind of cliche, but I just think it's so important. And if I had anything to say to young coaches, is don't get caught up in what down the road, what the future looks like. And I know you got a plan, and you always got to have goals, and set them and try to go get them. But you're gonna be able to achieve what you want to achieve if you'll do a great job where you're at. And if you can leave it better than you found it, that's what I concentrate on, because it could wear you down if you really think about it. You from one year to the next, you don't know if you're going to be moving or not moving. And so, and that can be hard on your family, but we just try to do a good job where we're at.
Yeah, there's that saying, be where your feet are, right? Staying in that mindset is not easy.
No, it's not.
So, move within the day and within the moment, and day by day for those guys.
A great example of that this year was at Florida Atlantic. Obviously the season was not going like we wanted it to, and unfortunately, Coach Herman was let go, and I got asked to be the interim head coach, and I really didn't hesitate. I wanted to do it, and because I'd had the opportunity to do that before at Georgia Southern, and I knew how much it would mean to the seniors. I knew how much it mean to the guys that had been at Florida Atlantic for a while, and so I wanted to be that guy for them if I could. So when I got asked, I accepted it, and the first thing I told the staff was, "Look, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and y'all do what you need to do, because everybody knows that maybe in 2 to 3 weeks we all may be looking for another job." But I said, I'm going to put my total focus on the staff and these players. I said, and I'm not going to think about what's going to happen down the road. I'm just going to do what, and I said, I encourage you to do that. I said, you'll get so much out of these last couple of weeks if you do that. And to the testament of our staff and also the testament of our players, they did that. They bought in for 2 weeks. And you saw a really awesome, change. You really saw an awesome vibe. You saw a good ending to a season that was really hard on everybody. And then when it was over, everybody had to, obviously figure out where they were going to go. But I just thought that was a great example this year, because the staff and the players did a really good job of going, you know what, we're gonna finish this thing out together.
Yeah, and holding a team together, or holding people together when it's a tough moment, right? That's light. That's so much, so many life lessons in that, I'm sure, for those guys.
Absolutely. And I think that's what those guys saw. They saw coaches that didn't give up on them, And I thought that was big, and that's a testament to our coach. That's a hard thing to do because, in 2 to 3 weeks, you may be looking for another job. You may be moving your family. You may, you just don't know what it's going to be. So it's hard to sit there and say, hey, I'm going to just lock in the whole day or each moment for these guys. And our coaches did that. And then I think the players were able to see that. The players did it for one another as well. And I hope, down the road, 30, 40 years, they go, man, that really meant a lot. And that really helped me become the man I needed to be. So, I think it was obviously nobody wants to go 3-9 in a football season, but I think a lot of good things did come out of it.
You are coaching these guys not just on the field, but off, right?
Sure.
In terms of coaching them through life, where do you begin? It's probably changes per player, right?
It does. And, used to I could share, my experiences, and I still do. But, the older you get, the younger guys are like, man, whatever, you've never felt this way, or you know how different things are now than maybe when it was 20, 30 years ago. And so I think the big thing that you have to do with guys is you have to show them that you really care about them. You have to show that you care about things outside of football. I hope that if you talk with any of my guys, they'll go, man, he got to know us, not just the football player I was. And, lots of times it ends up hurting. I mean, you maybe get into a personal relationship with a guy and you're really getting to know him, and then things maybe don't go the way you want it to go. And those are hard things, but I also see that as life as well. And if you're not investing in people, if you're not investing to try to get them to be the best they can be, and the only way to do that is to get to know who they are. And I think that's the whole key. I don't know if there's really a recipe to do that. I just think there's got to be a constant. When you walk in that door, I'm going to be focused on these guys, and I'm going to be focused on these individuals. And yes, I'm going to have things going on in my life, and I think it's important that you open up and share about those types of things too. And we did a lot of that. There was a lot of our position meetings where we called it real is rare. And what that meant was, before we get started on football, we're going to be real, and we would assign a guy, hey, come in. We want you to tell something about your life that's going on. It can be positive, it can be negative, it can be whatever. And then we're going to talk about it. And so we would do that a good bit. And what you saw was really a group that would come together and want to play for one another because they knew a little bit more about each other.
Yeah, it's wild to hear. I love the fact that I know a lot of programs are bringing in kind of, support for the mental part of the game too, right? These days, which is kind of newer on, in athletics, not just football, but in athletics. And I think that's so important. And then you guys are all on board within each team.
Yeah, I had my first kind of dealings with that when I got the head job at Georgia Southern. So just a little bit about the Georgia Southern situation. I've been at Georgia Southern for a long time. I was there from 2003 to 2006, and then I came back in 2013, and then was there all the way through 21. But in 2000, make sure I get my dates right, but in 2017, we were having I was not the head coach, but we were having a tough season, and a change was made. I got asked to be the interim head coach, and we ended up doing a good job, and I got named full-time head coach after the season. But going into the 2018 season, I knew our team was talented enough, but I would see us lose games because we didn't have a belief and we were not mentally strong. And at that time I met, his name is Brandon Harris. He was a sports psychologist at Georgia Southern, and started talking with him a little bit, and actually got him to come on and volunteer a little bit with our team. And we would actually give him meeting time throughout the week with our guys, and he would teach them, different methods and different things, and then he would do one-on-ones with them as well. And, I don't mind sharing this because I think this has been a big part of my growth as a coach. But we had a lot of success in 2018. In 2017, we went 2-10, and then 2018 we ended up turning around, going 10-3. And a lot of that had to do with the mental strength. Like, we were good football players, but we just were not mentally strong. And I have to give a lot of credit to Dr. Harris for what he did for our team with that. But then, the next year, and, I share this, I share it with our players a lot, but we had a situation at Georgia Southern where we're coming off a good year. We didn't have a whole lot of adversity because we were doing a great job of working through adversity. And then we had some things kind of happen that caused some mental health issues in 2019. Unfortunately, we had a young man named Jordan Wiggins that committed suicide, and this was during the season. And, I'd never been around that. I'd never been where that had happened on a team. And it affected our whole team. It affected our whole season. And, some guys on our team, it affected a lot. Some guys on our team, it didn't affect very much. But there was a lot of work that we had to put into it that was way outside of football. And, I know I'm getting off subject here, but it helped me grow as a coach because it became a little bit more real. It wasn't more, hey, you're a football player, this is what you do. You gotta, no, we got to make sure, because the young man that took his life, like, he walked into the building every day smiling, and he was like, I had no clue that something was wrong. I had no clue, and that weighed on me a lot because I was like, man, you're the head coach, you're supposed to see things like that, and but unfortunately, that did happen, but I do think a lot of positives came out of that because we were then able to bring a lot more of the mental health piece into our program, and help guys that struggle. And I would venture to say, man, there's so many people that deal with things mentally that you just don't know they are, and if you don't have those type of supports and things put in place, I don't know if you're really doing right by people. So that was one of the biggest defining moments in my career, for sure.
Well, and I thank you for sharing that, because I think it's important for so many people to kind of pause and realize the importance of that, and the fact that so many programs are responding to situations like that. Unfortunately, it's after something happens, but I think as a nation and our universities and even our elementary schools, I just noticed the other day, I froze for a minute because I never realized on the back of my kid's ID badge at elementary and middle school, there's 3 phone numbers, and the top one is the like a suicide prevention hotline. And I'm like, and I kind of was like, wow, this is elementary and middle. And then I thought, oh my goodness, that word is on their daily ID badge. And then I thought, but how strong that's there for that 1, 2, 3 students that might need it, and they don't want anyone to know.
That's right.
And so thank you for sharing that story. I think many coaches, teachers, parents.
Yeah, and again, my I guess I don't want to use the word expertise, but what I've been doing my whole life is football, right? And football is such a tough man sport, right? You talk about being tough, you talk about being physically tough, mentally tough, and things like that. And you're always challenging guys, and you're always and you have to, like, you have to be tough to play this game, and you have to be mentally tough to play this game. But I think, you have to have something in there. We started using, there was some lingo that kind of came along from the counselors and the psychologists and things that we were using of, it's okay not to be okay. And, we tried to do a good job of going, yes, you got to be tough. You got to be mentally strong to play this game. But if you are going through something, or if you don't feel okay, it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to talk about it. And you're not weak by talking about it. And so a lot of good came from it. It was obviously a horrible, tragic situation. But I do think God's, plan obviously showed after that tragic event, and there were so many guys that were touched, and there were so many guys that I think it ended up helping a lot because we were able to, break down a little bit of the barriers.
Yeah, and the power of team, right? The power of team and the lowest of lows, but then at the same time, you guys all together are experiencing such amazing highs together and
Sure.
excitement, and why we all love the game of football.
Absolutely.
Right? Led by coaches like Chad Lunsford. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about the state of college football. I'd love to know your thoughts on that, and transfer portal and NIL and all the big topics that so many continue to cycle around and talk about these days. So
For sure.
We'll be right back.
All right.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Paige Kornblue Show. Coach Chad Lunsford, Auburn University special teams coordinator, has just wrapped up some time with FAU, Florida Atlantic football, and has also been at Georgia Southern and Georgia Military College. Some great programs, and off you are on your way to becoming a Tiger. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. College football and being a coach is definitely interesting, and there's a lot of adventures involved in it, and that's what we've always taught our kids. Like, there's going to be change, there's going to be, and it's hard as our children get older, for them to make moves, but they've always looked at it as an adventure. So I know they're excited about this next one.
In just a minute, I want to get some of your takes on parenthood and fatherhood. But real quick, if we could talk about the state of college football, what are your thoughts on that when you hear, that phrase?
I'm so up and down on it. I get frustrated. To be honest, our game's changing. And I don't say that like I feel strongly that players should get compensated. Like, I mean, there's a lot of money involved in college football, and they go out there and they do work for 3 hours in a game, and they make plays, and if they're really good, they're doing things that bring more attention to the university and bring more money to the university. So I think there's definitely some things that I think, for guys to be able to be compensated for, I think that is right. But I struggle with also, I don't like devaluing the education piece. I think that scholarships should still be important, and why you get to have a scholarship, and what you get from that scholarship, getting a college degree and preparing yourself. So I get torn on things because I do want players and young men to know, and it means something. It means something to get a scholarship. It means something to get a degree from the university that you go to. And then the transferring. I think there's some validity to transferring. I definitely see it. If a guy makes a decision to go somewhere, and then all of a sudden his coaches change and it's a whole different environment, because it's easy to just sit there and say, don't pick a school because of your coach. Like, I would love for you, for that to be true, but who are you talking to the most to get to the school? You're talking to the coach, and the coach is telling you what his plan is for you. The coach is telling you, here's what we do. This is our system. This is how we see you fit. This is what we see you doing for us. And then if they get there and a coach changes, now that changes. Now, are you still a good fit? So I think there's a place for the transfer piece as well. I think the negative that comes into the transfer piece is you lose a lot of loyalty to your school. I think there's a lot of schools out there that have a lot of tradition, a lot of rich history. And then if there's schools that maybe don't have a lot of tradition, you get to build tradition. And there's something about, coming together as a group for a common goal, and to do that for your university, and to do that for maybe the players that came before you and the players that are going to come, the whole leave it better than you found it mentality. I'm not sure where that's going to go now. I'm a little bit worried about that part of college football with the transfer piece, because now you're seeing guys that end up being at 2, 3, 4 different places, and So it's an interesting time in college football. And again, I want players to be compensated. I want players to have the ability to transfer if they're not in a good situation. But I think some things have got to be streamlined a little bit too.
It's hard for us to keep up with it, members of the media or just, following along in the news, right? So for you guys, so many waves and it's moving so fast, right?
Oh yeah.
How do you keep up with the constant change to it?
Yeah, and it's evolving. I don't think, not to blame anybody, because I think when this thing happened and started getting put in place, there was no training manual, there was no guide rails, and there was nothing to say this is the way you should do it. So there's a lot of learning on the go right now, and it's affecting a lot of things. I hate the fact that high school recruiting gets affected a lot. Not as many opportunities for high school players as there's been in the past, because now if you got an immediate need on your team, you're probably going to go look at another college, a player that may be in the transfer portal because he has experience. And and whether we like it or not, wins and losses matter for people's jobs and employment and things like that. So you're always going to look for the best fit to try to help you win a game. And so a lot of things that we're having to navigate through. But I hope at some point we're able to get this thing where it doesn't affect high school players as much, because that development between high school and college and those guys that have those dreams and aspirations, I mean, that drives young men. And if you start taking that away, I don't know, what's going to drive them. And so I think we got to be very careful about what we're doing.
What's driven you in this game through your life?
Honestly, early on, it was selfish. It was ambition. It was wanting to climb the ladder of success. It was, wanting to beat my chest and go, hey, I'm at this place. I'm a college coach. I'm da-da-da-da, and all that. And eventually I figured out that, my purpose on this earth was not me. My purpose is for others. And so that's the way I've tried to approach coaching. The latter part of my career is put the emphasis on other people. Don't worry about yourself. And I don't mean that in a way like, you just totally don't do things for yourself, but I get a lot more enjoyment out of seeing other people succeed because you're investing in them. And, when you just invest in yourself and you see yourself, that's such a short gratification moment. But when you see a guy, start out as a freshman and really grow, become a good football player, get a college degree, go on and be successful, and knowing that you had a hand in that, that's where the enjoyment comes into play. And, I think God's also placed me, in this business to also, spread the gospel as well. And I know you have to be careful in this day and age about how you do it, when you do it, and all that type of stuff. And I don't believe in forcing that or anything, but I think that when that opportunity does arise, because I think God puts those opportunities there for you, I think you should take advantage of that. And so that's what my college, career has really become, more about the impact than it is about me trying to climb the ladder.
You're on college campuses every day. What's your message to students, student athletes, no matter whether they're playing a sport or not, but just what are you seeing these days in terms of what would you say to them, those that don't get a little Coach Lunsford in their lives?
I just encourage, I do this with my own kids, and I probably could do a better job with them, but I want to encourage them to try to be a part of something bigger than themselves. That's why I love football. Football is like and I say this, but I'm jaded on it, but it's like, to me, it's the greatest team game there is. I mean, you got 11 different people out there at one time doing different jobs, and each of their jobs matter, and it affects the other one. And not to say basketball is not that way or baseball is not that way or anything else, but football is just a different animal. And when you really get a group of people come together and go, we're trying to accomplish a goal together, and it's a team goal. Those are the things, and like I was going to say with my children, like I just want them to understand that too. Like, be a part of something. Don't just stay locked away and doing your own thing. Like, be a part of something and try to be a part of something special, something great, and you'll get a lot of fulfillment out of that. So that's what I would try to tell people that maybe I don't see every day. Just be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Chad Lunsford is a dad, right? Husband, dad, 3 kids?
3 kids.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really the 4th kid. My wife's really the parent. So
I love that you're the one that admits it. Big roles, right? Coach, dad, on and off that field. What I always joke with the coaches, I'm like, what's harder, coaching these college guys or coaching, your kids? It's all.
Yeah, it's because there's lots of times as a college coach, you I don't want to use the word neglect, but you're not there as much as you probably need to be because you spend so much time with other people's kids. And but what we've tried to do and what my wife's done a really good job of is trying to make sure we involved our kids in it. Have the players over for dinner, take them out to eat somewhere and let the kids come and just get involved in their lives as well. And we were able to do at Georgia Southern as the head coach. I was able to go do a couple mission trips with some of our players that volunteered to do it. And we did one in Cuba and we did one in Costa Rica, and I was able to bring my kids along with that. And those 2 trips are probably one of the 2 biggest impacts on them. And they got to see our players do something other than football, and then they got to do something for others other than doing things for themselves. And I think trying to get the kids involved in things like that, because you do spend a lot of time away from home, but to get them involved in the coaching piece and being a part of the players' lives and things like that, I think that ends up paying off dividends for a coach's kid.
During that ladies' night, I was like, gosh, if I could only have Coach Lunsford in my ear when I'm parenting, the way you were with coaching all of us. I was like, it was like, as the kids say, it was fire. It was great. It was such good energy, and so there's a lot there.
Well, I will say this: it's harder to coach my own kids than it is other kids. That they don't see me like that. They don't see me as they see me as a dad. They see me as the dad jokes and the you don't know anything, dad, but type of thing. Whereas players when they come to work, they want you to get them better. So sometimes it's a challenge with the kids because they live with you all the time, and I don't know if they look at you the same way.
What do you love about being a dad?
Man, I think the whole being able to provide, but also I think there's a lot of motivation in, and I know that ultimately they choose their path, they choose which way they're going to go, but I just think having the ability to bring good human beings up and try to get them to be maybe what you were not when you were their age. And it's funny because I do it all the time with my son, because I'll be like, hey, I've been there, I've done that. And, he'll look at me sideways and all that. But then it comes back around and I go, I looked at my dad the same way you looked at me, and I thought he was crazy too. And I said, but one day you're going to go, okay, I get it. And so I think that's the funnest part, is just being able to share, hey, look, this is where I messed up. Now you're going to do what you're going to do, but I'm trying to tell you, like, hey, this is the route you need to go, and don't make the same mistakes I made.
Well said. I like that. We haven't touched upon bowl season, and I've got to, of course. So one other quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about postseason play and the power of it all.
Awesome.
We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Chad Lunsford on the Paige Kornblue Show, and Coach Lunsford, his special teams coordinator at Auburn, and has been at FAU, Georgia Southern, Georgia Military College. Quite a resume. If you read your bio, it's lengthy and strong. And our congrats to you on this new journey, new path for you. It's probably been quite an exciting one, right, over the years.
Oh yeah, I've been in a lot of great places, and getting to go back to Auburn. Auburn was obviously one of our favorite places we had been before, and being able to go experience that again, we're excited about it. But everywhere we've been has been awesome. I mean, we've met good people. We've made lifelong friendships everywhere we've went, and I do enjoy that part of the college coaching piece. I mean, we've got connections all over the country, and and you may not talk to somebody for 2 years, but when you pick up the phone, it's just like you just saw them yesterday. And so love that part of the business. And, and that's what we're about to get to experience with Auburn. We're going to go back and see a lot of people that we hadn't seen in a long time, and then get to meet new people as well. So
family, community experiences, and you experience them all together. So it's great. One of the experiences you've had some, time in is bowl season, right? And of course, my ESPN Boca Raton Bowl hat, I've got to ask you about some of those. You've been to 3 bowl games when you were at Georgia Southern and won 2 of them. How were those for you? What did you really enjoy about that postseason play?
Georgia Southern for a long time was an FCS program, and had a lot of success in the playoffs, 6 national championships. And in 2013, it was a transition year. We at that time we went from FCS to FBS, and the transition year, you're not allowed to go to a bowl game. And then in 2014, you still was, I think it was on the second year of the transition, and you're still not allowed to go to bowl game. You could win the conference championship. We were in the Sun Belt, and we actually won the conference championship, but we were not allowed to go to a bowl game, which, I mean, it was so like, man, I don't understand this rule. And so anyway, that being said, then the next year we become bowl eligible, 2015, and so it's the very first bowl game for Georgia Southern, and we go to Mobile Bowl. What was it called at that time? GoDaddy Bowl, maybe.
Okay.
In 2015, and we played Bowling Green, and we had one of the best games we've ever played in our life, and it was the first bowl victory for Georgia Southern. And what was so awesome about it was no kid on that team had ever, you had coaches that had been to bowl games before because of other places, but no young man on that team had experienced it, and got to go do the week events and the activities and all that type of stuff, and then go play a football game on national TV. So that was really exciting. And then as a head coach, we came off a very rough 2017 season. We were 2-10. I became the head coach in 18, and we turn it around. We get to be 10-3, and then we go to the Camellia Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama, and we have a awesome week. Guys enjoy the activities, but you could tell like they had a purpose down there, and they wanted to go win that ball game, and it ended up being one of the best ball games I'd ever been a part of. We got up early. The other team fought back, playing Eastern Michigan. They took the lead. I think there was a minute something left in the game, and we get the ball back, and we actually get into a 4th and 10, and we got to get this 4th down, or we're not going to win. And our quarterback scrambles. I mean, he gets this big run and actually gets us across midfield, and then we run a couple more plays, and clock's ticking down, and all this, and then special teams gets to play a huge deal in the end of the game. We actually have I think it was a 41-yard field goal walk-off, and with time expiring and all that. And, what I remember is going back and watching the TV copy of it there was always this funny things that, like, well, bowl games don't matter. And, when you saw the excitement of our fan base and you saw the excitement of our team, I mean, it was a huge celebration. I mean, it was so awesome. And I remember the ESPN commentator saying, this is why we play bowl games. And it just struck with me. I was like, man, it is, because it gives you an opportunity to finish your season. It gives you an opportunity to, one, if you've done a good job throughout the year, to be rewarded. And then you get a chance to say, hey, we won our last game. And and then the next year we went to the Cure Bowl in Orlando, 2019, and actually we played Liberty. Coach Hugh Freeze was the coach of Liberty, and so that was my first interaction with Coach Freeze.
Oh, nice.
And so, obviously he ended up getting the best of us that day, and it was another tight game, really close to the end, but he ended up coming out on top. But it's funny how that ends up playing out, because I was able to make a connection with him, and now that's kind of paid off at this moment. And then in 2020, the pandemic happens, and we don't know if we're going to play football, and we end up playing 13 games that year, and I think us and Alabama were the only two teams in the country that played 13 games. Everybody else either had some canceled or didn't get that far. We played 13. We ended up going to the New Orleans Bowl, R&L Carriers Bowl in New Orleans. And we had a great game. We played Louisiana Tech. Now, this one wasn't that close. We ended up winning that one 38-3. But it was, again, another way of, like, such a hard year, such a, just different with COVID and everything you had to go through to even play a game. And, we just had so much fun with it. So I know I went a long ways on all of this, but I enjoy bowl games. I think it's a great reward. It's a great reward for the fan base. It's a great reward for the team. You get to go, maybe let your hair down for a little bit and, have a good time, but also get to work as well and get the opportunity to try to finish your season off right. So I enjoy the bowl game process for sure.
Yeah, because a lot of guys move on, but many don't. So it's kind of that one last step, right? And one last time together. Yeah. And then the families come and the work. So it's lots of fun. Quick shout outs. You mentioned Camellia Bowl, which is now one of our ESPN events, a Salute to Veterans Bowl, they call it now. And Cure Bowl is another one. That's the Staff DNA Cure Bowl. So all these titles, right? So partners with our ESPN events, Boca Raton Bowl. So I'm glad you have enjoyed all those experiences, and I'm really excited to see where you go next.
Yeah, and I will say this, like I've had the opportunity to attend as a fan at the Boca Raton Bowl, and I've had a good time at those. I mean, this year was a really awesome game, and I actually had a good buddy that was on the James Madison team, and I was able to maybe go to a couple practices and watch them practice, and then also then watch the game, and took my son to it, and just had a blast. So I really enjoy it. And the Boca Raton Bowl is really from obviously not participating in it, but from the outside looking in, it looks like it's a really fun time.
Let's jump into that thought just for a quick moment for our sake. When you were out at the practices, being able to be here in South Florida at some of those experiences and seeing these teams who, are not often in the sun in December from where they're coming from, and then to be, on FAU's campus for that game, because you've been to some others and in seasons at other universities, how has that game been for you?
Well, obviously talking to the coaches at James Madison and all that, they were loving life. Because I think, don't quote me on this, but I think when they left, it was snowing in Virginia. And, the guys really enjoyed being down in South Florida, just being able to wear shorts, and short sleeves and all that. And, it's such a beautiful place too. I didn't know a lot about Boca Raton and, before getting down here at FAU, but it's definitely paradise. I mean, it is a beautiful place. It's a beautiful spot. And then the FAU stadium, the proximity to the ocean and just that look, that feel, that little ocean breeze that you get. I mean, it's a really cool place. And, if I'm ever at a school that gets opportunity to come to the Boca Raton Bowl, I'll be fired up about that for sure.
So we've heard a lot from you today, and I just kind of I always like to ask for a takeaway, like, the Coach Chad Lunsfordisms that many of us won't get to get, because we're not on your team. But if we were, what would be some of the things that you'd want to kind of send out there, share to folks who are listening?
I got a lot of little nuggets that I use, maybe too many, but one thing that, and we did it ladies' night, we broke it down on it. I use the acronym WIN, and I think the credit maybe goes to Lou Holtz on that. I'd have to look it up to make sure, but coaches just steal things from other coaches, and but I've used WIN as an acronym as a head coach, but also in special teams. And WIN basically means what's important now. And it's just another way to lock into the moment. And I like using it because it helps me, because my mind gets to thinking 2 or 3, 4 or 5 steps ahead. And then that messes up the moment. And so, I think being able to be in the moment. I used to talk a lot as a head coach. I used to talk about learn from the past, work for the future, but be in the moment. And I thought there was a lot of validity to that. And, I have to tell myself that over and over again. Like, the past is the past. Yes, you can move on, but you better learn from it, because you don't want to repeat some things, or you do want to repeat some things, and then, yes, the future is important. You got to have your goals. You need to be working toward that, working for that. But to get there, you got to be present in the moment. So I think WIN's kind of the biggest thing that I kind of try to share with players.
Perfect. Well, you're winning. You're winning, and we thank you. I thank you for your time today before you step away and head to Auburn. So congratulations. Can't wait to follow you, continue to follow you. How can others kind of connect with you if they want to?
I guess maybe social media. Yeah. I have a Twitter. I guess it's X. Is that what it is?
X, yeah.
I usually joke, hey, I got a Facegram, or I got an Instabook, and all that stuff. But I do. I got Facebook. I got X. I got Instagram. I think TikTok got back going, right?
It did for now. Who knows? On, off.
I don't really do anything on TikTok, but
but it's back.
But it's back. But anyway, I would say that would probably be the best way to connect with. Sure.
Perfect. Will do. Well, and I'll put all those links on my website at paigekornblue.com and in our show notes here. But thank you. We say go Tigers, go Owls, go Eagles, go all the things, Chad Lunsford, and appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. And until next time, cheers.